My name is Mike Tighe. I'm a commercial real estate investor. I started off buying single family homes and eventually scaled to a commercial real estate portfolio north of $50 million in value. Prior to real estate investing, I was working as a air traffic controller. I started with the U.S. Navy. I then worked for NATO over in Afghanistan for a year, and then came to the U.S. and worked in Los Angeles and San Diego before I made the transition full-time to real estate. I initially did start in California. I bought my first property in Los Angeles, and then from there I realized at that point in that market cycle, this was approximately 2015, 2016, it was really hard to find properties in Southern California that could produce cash flow with just the minimum required down payment. So I kind of had to pivot from that strategy, and I started exploring other markets. And when I looked in the Midwest and East Coast, I realized, with the minimum down payment of 20, 25% that most lenders require, the properties were able to produce yield. So that's what drove me out of California and into markets in the Midwest and East Coast. Number one, well, first of all, I'm gonna preface this by saying I don't think there are any difficulties in investing out of state, and I'll address those right here. I'll address the concerns that come up, and then kind of maybe my rebuttal to those. Number one, a lot of people say, I don't want to buy a property I've never seen. I need to be there for the inspection. Okay, my answer to that is always, are you a property inspector? If you were even there for the inspection, do you know what you're looking at? Can you check foundation cracks? Are you going to inspect the roof? Do you know how to scope the plumbing? You're not going to do any of those things. So buying a property sight unseen and just getting letting the professionals handle the inspection and send you the reports to analyze really is going to be a more time efficient move. The second thing is, what if something happens in the middle of the night and I want to be able to go to my property? I want it right down the street. So if the toilet's clogged and I get a call at 10 p.m., I can go over there with a plunger and save the day. This is something that I think it's almost a benefit to have a property out of state, because at scale you don't want to. You're not going to have enough time to plunge all these toilets, hypothetically at 10 p.m. every evening. So you need to hire people, namely property managers, that will take care of this for you. And when the properties are out of state, it forces you to do this. Where if the property was in your own neighborhood, you would likely convince yourself that you can take on this endeavor on your own. And so I see that as an advantage going out of state, where it just keeps you out of the operation and allows you to focus on the next acquisition. So I think maybe those are some of the two top concerns that come up, and maybe how I would approach those or address those. So it really depends on what market you're in. Let's say you're Forrest Gump and you're down in Greenbow, Alabama. Do you really want to buy real estate in Greenbow, Alabama? Because it's not a growth market. You want to follow net migration patterns, where jobs going, where medium household income is also growing, and this allows you to be targeted in your approach. So you can almost do a scan of the United States and pull data and kind of see where those migration patterns are trending upward. Right now it happens to be in what they call the Sun Belt region, the southern portion of the U.S. stretching from North South Carolina westward to all the way to Phoenix. So a lot of people are targeting those markets, where if you're Forrest Gump, you can get out of Greensboro, not buy that $10,000 home down the street that's never going to appreciate, and you can buy like a nicer asset in maybe in Charleston, South Carolina, where it has a lot of growth potential and hopefully still produce yield in the end. First of all, this starts with hiring a rock star property management team. I have a questionnaire. I have probably a 40, 50 questions I ask all property managers that I'm not going to provide right now. But when vetting the property managers, go through the process, look at their listings, and go through the process like you're a prospective tenant or lead. Click on one of their properties, look at all their photos, and see if they do a good job marketing. Once you find a listing you like, click on inquire and see if their communication is up to par. Do they get back to you same day? Do they take 3 days to get back to you? Do they get back to you at all? what I found is probably half the time most property managers don't even respond to your inquiry. And then when they do respond, what are the interactions with them like? Because that lease up phase is a really big friction point when you're working with a property manager. Once you have a move out, you want to have a property manager who has high level processes in place to get that vacancy filled as quickly as possible. And as you can see, if they're not responding to your initial inquiries, that's going to really inhibit them from filling that vacancy, in the appropriate timelines. I would start with, I think, Bigger Pockets, which is a popular real estate investing business and brand, has a book that's called Out-of-State Real Estate Investing, or something to that effect. If you type that in online, you'll find this book. And I would say start with that book, and it will really lay out some of the key, foundational knowledge pieces that you can carry forward into purchasing your first out-of-state real estate investment. So I would honestly suggest reading that book and then taking action. Once you read it, don't keep pontificating on what your next move is going to be and maybe fall into analysis paralysis. Read the book and just make a move.